So, how do all of these key principles that we've just learned about our subconscious mind and how it works affect our emotional state? Well, first of all of this will drive our assumptions because they become the filter we see the world through. They become why we keep believing we will get abandoned or betrayed, why we keep having patterns of behavior that make us feel suspicious or clingy or fearful or anxious. And they're where your mind will go naturally. Let me give you an example. Let's say you're dating Bob. Bob doesn't give you a call back when he said he would. Your mind isn't like, oh, Bob might not have, remembered because he got really busy at work. Bob's having a bad day. Bob feels insecure, and that's why he didn't call me back. Your mind is most likely to go to your own core limiting beliefs you have about yourself. If you have a big belief that says, I'm not good enough, or I'm unlovable, or I'm disliked, or I'm unworthy, your mind's going to go, oh, I didn't get a call back from Bob because I'm not lovable enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not interesting enough. Whatever beliefs you have as part of your programming literally are the filter that you're going to see and interact with the world through. It's like you have glasses on all the time that are all of the programs of your subconscious mind, and you're constantly seeing and interacting with the world through that filter, which means your mind is essentially going to jump to conclusions that it has been previously programmed with. So if we can identify what our core beliefs are and start to reprogram them, it's like we take those glasses that are creating that filter that we see the world through, and we're like wiping them clean so we can see clearly, objectively, not take things so personally. And we can actually make ourselves feel more secure, more confident, and just be open a lot more in our lives to possibilities and to taking action. And most importantly, arguably, our mind spends a tremendous amount of time giving emotional real estate to past limiting beliefs and how they drive our thoughts and emotions. So it's like if I'm constantly carrying around this belief on my back that says I'm not good enough and I'm disliked, when I go into that networking event, I'm going to feel so insecure, so anxious. When I go into, that new job interview, so insecure, so anxious, all the things that we might do because our filter is making us see things that way, it's giving all of this emotional energy to things that are only bringing us down. They're extremely, extremely counterproductive. And when we can start cleaning that stuff up and removing those stains off of our glasses, all of a sudden we get into a position where it's like we actually have more energy in life. We feel better, we sleep better. Like these things literally drive and create changes and impact on our neurochemistry over time because our emotions are made up of neurochemical reactions. So if I'm constantly telling the story of how I'm not good enough and I'm disliked, how do I feel? Right? I start feeling anxious. I start feeling afraid. I start feeling sad. I start feeling in despair. Versus if I start telling the story about how I am good enough, I am worthy of making new relationships at this networking event that I'm about to go into. Well, what happens instead? I'm having positively oriented thoughts, which drive positively oriented emotions, which actually produce neurochemical reactions of like dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin if I'm bonding with people in there. So my neurochemistry is impacted by my belief and thought patterns throughout the course of the day. So this stuff has a tremendous impact on how we feel. And it's going to drive the meaning we keep assigning to things. Again, when we have a job rejection, we're going to go, oh, it's because I'm not good enough. Oh, it's because, people don't really naturally like me. Oh, it's because, and those stories not only are excruciatingly painful over time, but they really prevent us from reaching our potential in life. And this doesn't just apply to the job interview or networking event. This applies to our relationships. This applies to our friendships in relationships, family, romantic relationships. This applies to our dreams, our goals, the things we want to create in our lives. So learning the tools and sort of tricks about the subconscious and how it works opens up your world to you to see and experience life differently, especially when you can start hacking the process and reprogramming things that are no longer serving you. Now, one thing that's really important to recognize is we tend to have major core beliefs. Over the course of working with people in my client-based practice for a long time and seeing tons and tons of people, I realized that we tend to have major core beliefs when we boil things down. There are things like, I am not worthy, I am disrespected, I am powerless, I am helpless, I have no control, I will be rejected, I will be abandoned, I will be betrayed. And so we have a bunch of them. And you actually have a worksheet in your workbook that will help you identify the main ones in your life. So we can just start by like diving into that and reprogramming those core beliefs that might be creating major limitations in your life, your relationships, your finances, everything. So I just want to take you through a mini review before we dive into like these actual key principles of reprogramming. Number one, childhood is where we tend to accumulate the vast majority of our beliefs, though we can accumulate beliefs throughout the course of our lives. And we will do so, especially as we go through any major changes that create lots of repetition and emotion. And when we acquire all these beliefs, the mind tends to see things through this lens, this filter, and we tend to project this old information that we've acquired back out onto new things throughout the day, throughout the course of our day, our hours, our weeks, our lives in general. This meaning that we tend to give is usually in worst case scenarios. The reason for this that you should know is because the subconscious mind focuses on negative more than positive. It's a survival strategy. If I'm like out in the wilderness and I see a bear by the tree, my mind's not going to remember how pretty the tree looked. My mind is going to remember where the bear was and what that bear looked like. We focus more, we have a skew towards focusing in and getting imprinted and affected at the subconscious level more by negative things, which is great for survival. But all this time later, when we don't need to survive in the same way and we've got food and shelter and water, the vast majority of us, we're in a position where this actually hurts our emotional state. This hurts our self-confidence and esteem and ability to, self-actualize and achieve our potential. So the meaning we give to things, the lenses that we have, they're often blurred by actual really negative stuff, things that we're really afraid of, things that have really hurt us in the past. And then we tend to personalize our lives and environment through those glasses, right? Bob didn't call back, I'm unlovable. That's why, right? Because if you felt that way in childhood, you're projecting that back out. This meaning is there as a protective mechanism, but it doesn't help you emotionally. This meaning also, these things that we collect on our glasses, these programs that we have at the subconscious level, they become a part of our identity. They're actually who we believe ourselves to be. And then our mind jumps to these conclusions more naturally because it's actually what we believe about ourselves. And these are exactly the things that create the most limitations in our lives. So stay tuned for the next module, and we're going to teach you all about reprogramming, how to reprogram, and I'm going to give you a really effective starting tool for your reprogramming journey. And then I'll give you some next courses to dive into if you want to do a much deeper dive in specific areas of your life.